In a quiet suburban neighborhood, a family appeared to live a picture-perfect life. John Thompson, a devoted husband and father, was known for his unwavering commitment to his family and community. His wife, Emily, was admired for her warmth and kindness, and his younger brother, Michael, was a frequent visitor, cherished by all. To outsiders, the Thompsons seemed to embody harmony and love. Yet, beneath this facade, a secret lay hidden, one that would unravel their lives in the most tragic way. Emily and Michael had embarked on a forbidden affair, betraying the very foundation of their family bonds. Their clandestine relationship, fueled by passion and deceit, set them on a path toward an unthinkable crime. One fateful night, this concealed betrayal culminated in a horrific act. John was found brutally murdered in his own home, a place once filled with love now tainted by violence. The initial shock of his death sent ripples through the community, leaving friends and neighbors in disbelief. As investigators delved deeper into the case, the layers of deception began to peel away. The revelation of Emily and Michael's affair provided a chilling motive for the crime, turning the investigation toward those closest to John. The ensuing legal battle exposed the depth of their betrayal and the cold-blooded nature of their actions, leading to their conviction and life sentences. This tragic story serves as a stark reminder of how forbidden desires can lead to catastrophic outcomes, shattering the very fabric of family and community. If you love gripping true crime stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. John Thompson was the kind of man people looked up to. A devoted husband, a loving father, a dependable brother. He worked hard, provided for his family, and carried himself with a quiet strength. His wife, Emily, had been by his side for years. They had built a life together, raising their children, attending church on Sundays, hosting barbecues in the backyard. To friends and neighbors, they were the kind of couple others admired, a stable, committed partnership that had stood the test of time. Michael Thompson, John's younger brother, was always around. The bond between the two brothers had been strong since childhood. Where John was steady and responsible, Michael was carefree, charming in a way that drew people in. He was the fun uncle to John's children, always ready with a joke or a playful game. He and Emily got along well, always had. Some might have even noticed the way they laughed a little too easily in each other's company, the way they seemed just a little too comfortable. But no one would have ever guessed the truth. Because behind the warmth of family gatherings, behind the shared meals and holiday celebrations, something else was happening. Something that, for months, maybe even years, had been growing in the shadows, carefully hidden behind stolen glances and whispered words. Emily and Michael weren't just in-laws. They were lovers. It had started small. A conversation that lingered too long. A look that meant more than it should. The first time Michael touched Emily in a way that wasn't just friendly, she should have stopped it. But she didn't. And neither did he. What began as a quiet temptation soon turned into a reckless affair. They thought they were careful. Meeting in places where no one would recognize them. Speaking in coded messages. Always looking over their shoulders. But secrets have a way of coming to the surface, and when they do, they don't just break hearts. They destroy lives. John had no idea. Or maybe he did, in the way a person sometimes senses a shift without knowing exactly what's wrong. Maybe he noticed the way Emily had grown distant. The way Michael seemed more nervous when they were together. Maybe he brushed off the small signs, unwilling to believe what his own gut was telling him. Then came the night everything fell apart. John was found in his home, lifeless. Blood pooling around him, his body left in a way that spoke of violence, of rage. The kind of murder that doesn't happen at random. The kind that comes from someone who wants the victim to suffer. At first, people struggled to make sense of it. Who would want John dead? He had no known enemies, no debts, no history of trouble. But as the investigators combed through his life, looking for answers, the truth began to surface. Emily's phone records told a story she couldn't explain away. Secret meetings. Late-night calls. The investigators pressed harder. When the affair between Emily and Michael came to light, suspicion turned to certainty. Now the question was no longer just about who had betrayed John. It was about who had killed him. If you love gripping true crime stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. John Thompson was a man who did everything right, or at least, he tried to. He worked hard, built a good life, and took care of the people he loved. He wasn't the type to stir trouble or make enemies. He was steady, dependable, and loyal. The kind of man who made sure his wife and children had everything they needed. The kind of brother who would drop everything to help family. Friends described him as fair, quiet but strong, a man of his word. He wasn't flashy, he didn't seek attention. He simply lived his life, believing the people closest to him would do right by him. He never saw the betrayal coming. Emily Thompson had been by John's side for years. To the outside world, she was the perfect wife, devoted and loving. She met John when they were young, built a home with him, raised children together. At neighborhood events, she was always smiling, making small talk, the kind of woman who made others feel welcome. But there was another side to Emily. A restlessness. A longing for something different, something thrilling. Maybe it had started as boredom, or maybe it had been there all along, waiting for the right moment to surface. When Michael entered the picture, it didn't take much for the lines to blur. At first, it was just a harmless connection, or so she told herself. A bond built from familiarity, from years of being in the same family. But as time passed, that bond grew into something dangerous. And once she crossed that line, there was no going back. Michael Thompson had always lived in John's shadow. Growing up, John was the responsible one, the one who took care of things, the one who their parents trusted. Michael was different. Charismatic, impulsive, always looking for the next thrill. He wasn't the type to settle down, to commit, to follow rules. Maybe that was part of the reason he and Emily were drawn to each other. He wasn't like John. He didn't want to be. He wanted what he wanted, and for once in his life, he wasn't going to stop himself from taking it. He knew it was wrong. He knew it would hurt John if he ever found out. But he convinced himself that as long as it stayed a secret, no one had to get hurt. He never expected it to end in blood. Detective Sarah Mitchell had been in law enforcement for over a decade. She'd seen all kinds of cases, robberies, missing persons, domestic disputes. But there was something about this one that felt different from the start. John's murder wasn't random, that much was clear. It wasn't a break-in gone wrong or an act of revenge from a stranger. It was personal. The kind of crime that comes from someone who knows the victim. Someone with a reason. From the moment she stepped into the Thompson home, she could feel it. The tension, the hidden stories, the lies waiting to be uncovered. She had one job, to find the truth. And no matter how deep the betrayal ran, she wasn't going to stop until she did. The house was quiet when officers arrived. Too quiet. No signs of forced entry. No shattered glass, no kicked-in doors. Just John Thompson lying there, his body twisted, blood pooling beneath him. His face frozen in a look of shock, as if his final moments had been spent staring into the eyes of someone he knew. Someone he trusted. The first assumption was a robbery gone wrong. Maybe an intruder, maybe someone looking for money or valuables. But nothing was missing. John's wallet was still on the kitchen counter. His phone was on the table, screen cracked but still lit up with unread messages. His car sat untouched in the driveway. Whoever did this hadn't come for things. They had come for him. Neighbors reported hearing nothing. No gunshot, no shouts, no struggle. Just the usual stillness of the night. But one neighbor remembered something. Emily's car, parked outside the house much later than usual. And Michael's, not far behind. When detectives started piecing together the hours leading up to John's murder, things didn't add up. Emily said she had been at home, alone. Michael claimed he hadn't seen his brother that day. But phone records told a different story. Calls between Emily and Michael in the middle of the night. Messages that were deleted but later recovered. A pattern of communication that was frantic, desperate. As if something had gone wrong. John had been struck multiple times. Not a single clean blow, but repeated, violent force. The kind of attack that comes from someone fueled by emotion, by anger, by something personal. The kind of attack that doesn't come from a stranger. As the investigation continued, the truth became harder to ignore. The affair between Emily and Michael was no longer just a scandal, it was a motive. A reason to remove John from the picture. A reason to do the unthinkable. Detectives pressed harder. Emily's story started to waver. Michael became defensive. Then, a new discovery. John had confronted Emily about something just days before his death. A witness, a close friend of the family, recalled overhearing a tense conversation. John asking questions. Emily avoiding them. A name mentioned, Michael. A final warning from John, something about things needing to end. But they hadn't ended. Instead, someone had decided John was the one who needed to go. Detective Mitchell sat in the dimly lit interrogation room, a folder thick with evidence spread open in front of her. Inside were crime scene photos, autopsy reports, and the most damning piece of all, recovered text messages between Emily and Michael. Messages that weren't just flirtatious or secretive. Messages that showed planning. Messages that showed intent. Emily, he knows. He's asking questions. Michael, we need to figure this out. Emily, I can't live like this anymore. Michael, then we make a decision. There were dozens of them. Coded at times, but still clear enough to anyone who knew the full story. They had been meeting in secret for months, slipping away when John was at work, finding moments when no one would question their absence. But as their affair deepened, so did their desperation. And John had started noticing the change. Friends and neighbors filled in the blanks. A close friend of Emily's mentioned her growing frustration, how she would vent about feeling trapped. A coworker of John's recalled him acting differently in his last few weeks, tense, distracted, like something was weighing on him. The neighbor across the street. She remembered the argument just days before John's murder. John's voice was sharp, demanding. Emily's was lower, shaking. A door slammed. And then, silence. The forensic team worked through the evidence with precision. At first, there wasn't much, whoever had killed John had been careful. No footprints out of place, no fingerprints on the murder weapon. But technology has a way of catching even the most careful criminals. Luminol revealed a faint trace of blood on the living room floor, blood that had been wiped clean, but not completely. And when tested, it wasn't just John's blood that showed up. It was Michael's. Detective Mitchell pushed harder. She started with Michael, the younger brother, the one who had always been in John's shadow. He held out for hours, denying everything. He hadn't been there that night. He hadn't seen John in days. He didn't know how his blood ended up at the scene. But the weight of the evidence was pressing down, and eventually, something cracked. Michael slumped forward in his chair, his voice quieter now. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. And then, the confession spilled out. How he and Emily had talked about leaving John behind, starting over. How things got out of control. How he had gone to the house that night, thinking they would finally tell John the truth. How the argument turned into a struggle, how one moment John was yelling, pushing him back, and the next, he was on the floor, blood spreading fast, too fast. But the most chilling part? Michael wasn't alone. He hadn't come up with this plan on his own. Emily had been the one who started it. The trial of Emily and Michael Thompson became one of the most talked about cases in recent history. Reporters lined the courthouse steps, cameras flashing, microphones stretching toward anyone willing to speak. Inside the courtroom, every seat was filled, some by John's grieving family and friends, others by strangers drawn to the sheer shock of it all. The betrayal, the secret affair, the brutal murder, people wanted answers. How could something like this happen? How could a woman plan the death of her own husband with his own brother? The prosecution wasted no time painting a picture of premeditation. They laid out the evidence, starting with the incriminating messages. They displayed them on a large screen, the cold, unfiltered words filling the silent room. Messages between lovers who had grown tired of hiding, who saw John as nothing more than an obstacle. Messages that, in hindsight, read less like whispers of passion and more like blueprints for murder. Then came the forensic evidence. The traces of Michael's blood, the wiped-down crime scene, the lack of any real sign of forced entry. John's home wasn't broken into. He knew his killer. He trusted them. He had let them in. The biggest blow came when Michael took the stand. His defense team had little choice but to let him speak, hoping to shift some of the blame onto Emily. But his testimony only sealed both their fates. He described the night in detail, how he went to the house, how Emily had whispered to him that it was time, how things escalated so quickly. He had tried to make it sound like a crime of passion, something that wasn't planned, but the prosecution was ready. They played his own confession back to him, his voice cracking as he admitted Emily had been involved from the start. Emily sat stone-faced through it all. No tears, no visible remorse. She never took the stand, never gave her side of the story. But the jury didn't need to hear her speak. The evidence, the text messages, Michael's words, it was enough. The verdict was swift. Guilty. The judge's voice was steady as he handed down the sentences. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. Both Emily and Michael would spend the rest of their days behind bars, stripped of everything, their freedom, their secret world, even each other. As the gavel slammed, John's family wept. His parents, once the proud mother and father of 2 sons, now left with none. His children, too young to understand the full weight of what had happened, sat quietly, clutching the hands of relatives who would now raise them. Outside, reporters shouted into cameras, summarizing the case, recapping the affair, the betrayal, the murder. But inside that courtroom, the only thing left was silence. A family, broken beyond repair. A crime, fueled by selfish desire. And 2 people who thought they could escape the consequences, until justice proved them wrong. There is something unsettling about a crime that happens within a family. It's different from a random act of violence, different from the things people expect in a world where danger often comes from strangers. This was not a story of an outsider invading a home. This was destruction from within. A husband murdered not by a faceless criminal, but by the very people he loved and trusted the most. A wife who once vowed to stand by him, a brother who once looked up to him, both choosing betrayal over loyalty, passion over reason, greed over humanity. What drives a person to cross that line? To turn against their own. It's easy to assume it could never happen in an ordinary home, to an ordinary family. But how many families think they are ordinary, until something cracks beneath the surface? Until secrets, once whispered in the dark, become actions that can never be undone. John Thompson was a man who woke up each day believing his life was solid, his marriage intact, his family whole. He didn't see the danger forming behind his back, didn't realize that the people closest to him were making choices that would seal his fate. He didn't know that trust, once broken, can be more dangerous than any weapon. But trust alone didn't kill John. Choices did. Small ones at first. A glance held too long. A message sent in secret. A meeting behind closed doors. And then bigger ones, the kind that don't come with an easy way back. The kind that make people desperate. Emily and Michael chose deception over honesty, violence over escape. They believed they could rewrite their own story, erase John from the picture and continue as if nothing had happened. But the past never disappears so easily. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deep it's buried. Now, they sit in separate prison cells, their one secret love reduced to nothing but a memory. They can no longer speak to each other, no longer share glances across the room, no longer pretend they were ever anything but guilty. Whatever they thought they were fighting for, whatever future they imagined, it's gone. And yet, the ones who truly suffer are the ones left behind. John's children, robbed of their father, burdened with the knowledge that their mother was responsible. His parents, living with the unbearable truth that both their sons are lost to them, one to death, the other to a life sentence. There is no happy ending to this story. No redemption, no undoing what has been done. Just a reminder of how quickly life can shatter. How love, when twisted by selfishness and secrecy, can turn into something dangerous. What do you think? When betrayal seeps into a family, is there ever a way to repair the damage? Or does trust, once broken, stay broken forever? Let us know in the comments below. If this story has left you unsettled, if it has made you think about the choices people make and the consequences they can never escape, then you understand why these cases matter. They remind us that darkness doesn't always come from the outside. Sometimes, it's born in the very places where we are supposed to feel safest. Thank you for being part of this journey through truth, betrayal, and the price of forbidden love. If you found this case compelling, if you want to hear more stories that challenge your perception of justice and morality, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We have more cases coming, stories that will make you question how well you really know the people around you. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we uncover another chilling crime that will leave you thinking long after the story ends. Thank you for watching.